All right. So this is one of my favorite classes of the semester because this is, we're going to find out a lot about each other today. And it's a lot of good discussion. So, before I get started, the lecture from Tuesday is a little bit confusing because it talks about an assignment that I'm not getting you this semester. It talks about the Malden Mills case. You all have noticed that? I sent out an announcement that we're not doing that assignment, so anything that mentions that, just disregard. We're not going to do that this semester. Other than that, that lecture should have explained a couple of the assignments to you for this week. Does anybody have any questions about either of your assignments for this week? All right, I just want to reiterate, I talked about this on Tuesday in the lecture. I want to reiterate again, on your corporate social responsibility report, I'm actually going to extend the deadline on that by 1 week, just because it's a little bit more involved than almost all the other assignments that we'll do, so I want to give you some extra time if you need it. And I talked about this, so I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But if you Google corporate social responsibility report, you will come up with tons of results. So I want you to evaluate a real report from a real company. I don't want a product review, an overall review of what a company does, what their business is. That's not the point. This is to evaluate. I want you to critically analyze a company's report and tell me what you think about it. So keep in mind that all these companies are writing these reports, and they wouldn't be publishing them if they didn't want it to benefit them, right? They're not going to publish in their report, we killed more trees than last year, we wasted more energy than last year, or we really don't have any corporate social responsibility, we don't really believe in that. Nobody's going to publish that. So I don't want you to take what you read at face value. I want you to read it critically and think, do I buy this? Is this backed up by common sense? Are they just putting spin on it? Is this just a marketing ploy? Or am I really impressed by what they say that they do in their community and what they're doing to help the environment and so on and so forth? So I want you to read that with a critical eye. I expect that if you look at a report, I want you to look at one that's more current than not. You can find old ones, but I'd like for you to do a current one. After the Black Lives Matter movement gained more attention after the George Floyd stuff and so on and so forth, I expect and I have seen that more companies are putting social justice initiatives into their reports. So if they do that, I want to know what you think about that. Do you think they're just saying it, or are they just words, or do they really back it up with things that they're doing? If you have any questions about that report, just let me know. I will say, I said last week that I was always amazed that I don't get more questions. I've gotten a bunch of questions so far from both in person and online, and I appreciate that. So if you have any questions about this assignment, just let me know. I did get some important feedback that from an online student who said YouTube videos are much better than videos that are uploaded to Kukri. So I'm not going to try to upload them to Kukri. If anybody has a different perspective or idea, let me know. But what the student said was that on YouTube, you can watch them more anytime. They're easier to watch on your phone or your tablet or something like that. And that the quality was better on YouTube. So I'm just going to keep doing that. I don't really know how to do it the other way anyway. But if anybody thinks differently, let me know. That's the kind of feedback that I really appreciate, and that really does help us make a better class. So, all right. Just a couple of reviews from Tuesday. Remember that just because something is legal does not mean it's also ethical. Legal does not equal ethical. We would hope that the minimum ethical standards that we all hold are that we will follow the law. We would hope so. But just because something's legal does not mean it's also the right thing to do. And this is where your individual beliefs come into play. The law will set a minimum of what's required of everybody. But depending on what your values are, what your beliefs are, what your company's values and beliefs are, what's ethical and moral to you is going to be different than what's ethical and moral to everybody else. And you might say, well, this is kind of odd for a business law class because we're really talking about personal preferences here, and as long as we know what or can follow the minimum of what the law says, why do we have to worry about what's over and above what's legally required? I think this is an extremely important chapter, even though it doesn't carry or cover a discrete area of the law like criminal law or employment law or contract law. She's gonna make her way up there in a minute. For those of you watching online, my dumb bulldog Georgia is here. I say that with love. She's not smart at all, but you can't help it. So why is this important? I like to do this at the beginning of the semester because then we can talk about ethical issues in every other area of the law that we cover throughout the rest of the course. And also, I just think it's important for you to be prepared that a lot of the things you're going to face in decisions that you make in your careers are not necessarily going to be black and white when it comes to what the law is. And so I just think you need to be prepared with how you're going to handle those kinds of issues and discussions and things that come up. So that's sort of why we do this and why I think it's really important. The other assignment you have for this week, other than the corporate social responsibility report, which again, I'm extending one whole week for you, and I'll put that in the announcements, is your personal code of ethics. And it is an exercise that I get good feedback from students. They really like this assignment, but it's challenging you to come up with what your belief system is and some sort of guidelines for how you're going to face ethical decisions that you have to make, both in your personal lives and in your business lives. And so it's an easy assignment. It's an easy 100 if you do it. It's completely subjective, so it's only what you believe. I'm not grading what you believe or don't believe, but I do read it. I read everything that you guys write and submit. And so do take some time to do that. On the corporate social responsibility report, flipping back to that for a second, I'm going to ask a couple of students to give their report to the class. Just come up here for 5 minutes and kind of discuss what it is that you found and what you think, and we'll ask you questions, and I'll offer extra credit if anybody wants to do that. So just shoot me an email or a text if you're interested in doing that. I'm not going to force anybody to do that, but I have found that the class usually enjoys when we hear from somebody who's done this assignment. So we'll be doing that in future days. All right, so without further ado, yes, ma'am.
So just to make sure that I'm understanding correctly, out of the two items, which one is due next week?
Yeah, okay, good question, because I like to confuse you, not on purpose. Your personal code of ethics is due Monday night.
Okay.
Next Monday night. I'm going to give you an extra week on the corporate social responsibility report, because it could be a little bit more involved, and I don't want you pulling it up this Monday night and saying, shit, this is going to take way longer than what I thought it was going to take. So be warned now. It may take you a little bit longer than that. And I apologize for my language. All right, so this class today is all discussion. So I'm going to throw out some questions to you, and I'm going to do my best to involve everybody. Let me get my sheet out. And I've got a pretty good idea of who you are by now. First question I'm going to throw out is, there's no wrong answers today. First question I'm going to throw out to you is, Mr. Morgan, I'm going to ask you this question. You ready? You ready?
I guess.
All right. Is lying wrong?
No.
And, okay, so the answer is no. Why do you say that?
It depends on if you, want to protect someone's feelings or not. I mean, I'm all for telling the truth, bluntly, blatantly, and just straight through. But I would say it's not necessarily wrong if you're trying to, I guess, appeal to someone else's feelings.
All right, so you get a gold star because you used a phrase that I want you guys to learn in this class.
Which one?
It depends. Almost everything we talk about in this class, the answer is it depends. And it depends on what. So Cade gave us an example of what it might depend on, which is maybe you're lying to save someone's feelings.
I mean, don't just straight up flat out lie. I'll say a little truth in there, but maybe a word or two is a little different than what you should have said.
All right, good. So we're 10 seconds into this and we're in the gray area, right? That's what I'm talking about. So, all right, who wants to follow up on that? Is lying wrong? What does it depend on? Come on, Trey. Is lying wrong?
I think there's just.
I mean, I would say that it's wrong, but, I mean, it depends on the situation. I mean, I feel like it's a lot more wrong to get caught in a lie than it is to necessarily tell a lie.
All right, that's an interesting question too. It's a lot worse getting caught in one than if you told them not. Very good. I can think of times when we all lie. I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but for example, Santa Claus is one big fat lie, right? We all got told that lie by the people that we trust the most in the world, right? Who has kids? You lie to them, King, about Santa Claus?
No,
No, you don't? You told them there's no Santa Claus?
I told him I'm Santa Claus.
You told them there's Santa Claus. King doesn't lie. Who else said they have kids that they're lying to? Your little sweet daughter, is she old enough? Did you lie to that little thing? Man, I'm kidding. Hell yeah, I lie to mine every year. Yes, Santa Claus is watching.
If you don't believe,
I'm
you're
texting.
not going to get
If you
anything.
don't believe, you will not receive. That's right. One more example I can think of is, gentlemen, have any of your girlfriends or wives ever asked you, does my ass look fat?
I never had a lie.
You never had to lie? Well, that's a good point. How does this look, right? I'm not gonna put anybody on the spot for that. Stop it. I'm not putting anybody on the spot for that. But just the point being, and Kate hit the nail on that really. It just depends. It just depends. And again, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but it is not a black and white thing as we all might wish it was. So, anybody want to follow up on that before I ask the next question?
I just think Georgia was trying to be on your wife's side.
She was trying to what?
She was trying to be on your wife's side.
Yeah, she was. You were getting on me
Yeah.
for talking about my wife. But, and for the record, my wife's ass does not look fat. Ever, just in case she's watching. Okay, here's a scenario. All right, let's see. Who am I going to call on for this one? All right, Mick, you're right in my line of sight. So you represent an investment company. Your company is selling stock in a company that you believe is overvalued. So they're asking you to sell shares to customers of a company that you think is overvalued. You personally would never buy it. However, you're told that there is a special push to sell this particular stock, and in fact, your company is offering trips to Hawaii for agents who sell specified amounts of stock. So you make sales presentations to prospects that include you saying, this is one of the finest investments of its type on the market. I recommend that you sign up today. So first question, Mick, is that a lie?
Yeah.
All right, it says yes, so why?
Well, you don't believe it to begin with, and the person, I personally say it would be untrue to say it would be worth investing in because it's overvalued, and, sooner or later, the company will fall apart on itself.
So, I can hear in my head, it depends. Anybody else think that too? That's a good answer. What does it depend on? Yes, ma'am.
It depends on your job, because like when you have a job, your requirements are to like push your company and like do whatever it takes to do that, like market it in a certain way. And so when you have a certain situation like that, you either don't do your job or you do your job. So it's like, it depends on what choice you make there.
All right, so Zebra makes a great point. She's doing her job. And is that different than if we're just in interpersonal conversations with a friend or somebody like that? She's doing her job. If she didn't try to sell the stock, she wouldn't have a job for very long.
Or it would affect like my income or.
Right. Gotta make money, right? You gotta sell. Who else has a thought on that? What about the nature of sales? Lexi, go ahead.
I mean, I would also, like, I hear this and I think, like, sure, like, you could sell it right now, but, like, if it's not a good stock, these customers that you've sold this stock to aren't gonna come back for you for repeat business, so, like, if you're telling a lie, it also could hurt you in the future. It seems like a bad move to me.
Okay, great point. So, that point is, again, I repeat a lot for people on the video. You have a reputation as a salesperson, and what happens if you push something that you know is not true? Is that gonna hurt you in the long run? Does that matter to anybody?
No.
Are you more worried about the trip to Hawaii this year? Mr. Spates is. What do you feel about this? What if you were in this position?
So when you say it, I just for clarification, did I come up with that pitch or my company came up with that pitch and I just pitched?
All right, so he asked, did he come up with the pitch or did the company come up with the pitch? Why do you ask? Does your answer change depending on what the answer to that is?
If my company came up with the pitch, I did not lie. I just said what I was told to say. Now, if I ad lib, then maybe I know I lied. So I wouldn't say those words. I would say it in a way where I'm not lying, but not telling the truth.
But you're saying a lie.
It's not a lie. No, it's not. I'm just quoting a quote.
Just
So it's a lie?
No, that's not a lie. That's exactly what I was told to say.
I like it. I'm gonna bring you down here. You're gonna be our prosecutor down here, Ms. Galvez is. I'm seeing how this is going. Yes, ma'am.
I think like whether it's a lie depends on if you believe it's true or not. So
Okay.
even if it's not true, but if you believe it, then I don't think you're lying.
Depends on what you believe in. How many see an issue with, or let me ask this question. What's your duty to figure out if that's true or not? I mean, I think the question said you believe the company is overvalued. Is that your belief, or is that backed up by your company's analytics, or you have something measurable that you know it's overvalued, or you just think it's overvalued? Does that matter to you?
Yes.
In what way, Evan?
I mean, you could have a different opinion, like the person selling it to the person buying it. The person selling it may think it's the best thing ever, and the person buying it could think it's terrible.
All right, so that gets us into opinion, right, versus facts. And a lot of sales involves what they call puffery and, pumping up a product. When you go into, or let me ask this a different way. So, Mr. Willoughby, if your stockbroker called you and said, I've got this investment, it's one of the finest investments on the market, what do you think your duty is? Do you accept what your salesman says is true, or do you think you have a duty to investigate on your own? You think you do? So when that stockbroker calls you, what's your mindset? I need to look into this myself, or I trust him or her?
I do have a stockbroker, so I trust mine.
You trust yours. All right, who else has a different, and that's a good answer. Who else has different thoughts? What if it was a cold call?
Definitely do my own research.
Definitely do my own research. So that's another factor that it depends on, right? What's our relationship with this person? Is this person somebody that, again, from a customer's point of view, is this somebody that we trust? Is this somebody with a good track record? What's our duty? I've had students say, you know that person is a salesperson, and you know, or you should know, that person's job is to sell you things. Okay, and you can't trust them to be objective about it because they're trying to sell it to you. And so therefore you should expect, I'm not saying this is right, this is just a belief out there. You should expect the salespeople to be lying to you a little bit. What do you think about that, Mr. Pope? Are you a trusting person or a non-trusting person?
In this case, probably not trusting, because if someone's trying too hard to sell you on something, there's usually something that they're not telling you.
Right. So the more they're pushing, the more suspicious you might be.
Yeah, it's like, you seem awfully insistent, this is a good deal.
That very, very good point. So the first question I think was, is that a lie? My next question is, and we've kind of touched on this, but is it wrong? Is it wrong for that salesperson to say, this is one of the finest investments of its type, if that salesperson doesn't believe it to be true?
No,
Who said no? King? Why is that?
you just said
For the reasons we've said. No, you're right. I mean, I am asking the same question that we've kind of gone over a little bit. But
you can't, I'm doing my job. At the end of the day, I'm just doing my job.
so where do we draw the line then on that?
Huh?
So King, where do we draw the line on just doing your job? What if you know that the company that you are selling stock in is about to go bankrupt?
The line is when it's illegal.
The line is what?
When it's illegal.
When it's illegal.
Yes, I can do whatever it takes to fulfill my obligation to my job, as long as it's.
So do you foresee any issues with the legality of trying to sell stock in a company that you know is gonna go bankrupt?
I don't know that.
I just said you did though, but I hear what you're saying. All right, Lewis.
Well, theoretically, if it was gonna go bankrupt, that'd be insider trading, so you know.
It would, you might have some, and then if it's insider trading, then we definitely got some legal issues, don't we? Lexi.
Also, like, you're by selling these stocks, if you are correct, which you may be wrong, that is a possibility, but if you are correct, you are hurting your customers. You're hurt. Like, that doesn't strike me as right. Like, even if it is profitable, it doesn't strike me as right.
So you have some heartburn about the effect on your customer.
Yeah, it's predatory. It's naturally predatory, and I realize that's business, but irregardless, not great.
Okay. All right. That's a great point. Anybody have a follow-up on that? Yeah, Nikki.
It's just good to have a good reputation with your company. You want people to look at your company and say like, oh, that they do this and this and this for the, they're a good company to support. So I feel like that's important as well.
I agree with that. I think that lots of times we make decisions based on short-term rewards, like getting this trip to Hawaii, but just because that's something we're excited about, and we do that at the expense of maybe the long-term deal. I'll give you a real-life example that I use is I practice in front of the same judges over and over and over, and I will not give them a bullshit argument, because I know that I'm going to see them again next time, and I need them to know that if Mr. Tebow says something, that I can believe what he's saying. If I were to mislead the court or do something underhanded, then that means every time I go back in the future, that judge is going to be suspicious of me, and that hurts. That in the short term, I might try to cut a corner that would benefit my client at the time, but that would hurt all of my future clients. And so that's just most lawyers have this rule, but that's a rule we're we're not gonna make arguments that are ridiculous. I said most lawyers, I take that back. Lawyers say ridiculous things all the time. And I know this, I mean, I've heard judges say this in private. I mean, there are some lawyers that they're like, I don't believe anything comes out of their mouth. Which is a shame for their clients that hire those lawyers to represent them. But I always get off on tangents. So, let me see if I had a follow-up on this scenario before we move on. Okay, next one. All right, let's see here. You're looking at me and you are Mr. Johns, is that right? All right. You are selling consumer electronics, TVs. I wrote down DVDs and CD players. This is obviously something I read a long time ago. That's embarrassing. You're selling consumer electronics. You looked in the paper this morning before going to work. And that's another thing that we don't do anymore. Nobody looks in the paper in the morning. I'm gonna have to rewrite this. You notice that your competitor down the street is offering the same brand and model of TV, but for $100 less than your store. Later in the day, a customer comes in asking to buy that particular TV. You sell the customer that set without mentioning she could buy it for $100 less at your competitors. Is that wrong?
No.
No, that's,
No. And why not?
You're just doing the best for your company.
You don't have a duty to tell people they can get a better deal somewhere else, right? Anybody think that that is right?
I just wanna say, how can, everybody pretty much said, no, that's not wrong. But then got argued earlier, like, oh, I just wanna be a good company for my customers. So if you wanna be good for your customers, why didn't you tell them, hey, you go down the street, get for $100 cheaper?
All right, so King says, what about your reputation and you wanting to look out for the customer? Lexi.
my response to that is in this particular, in the other example, you are a third party trying to sell another company. You're trying to, you are the person doing the due diligence for your customer. This is just retail. You just walk into a store and you buy what you want, and it's the responsible of a different third party to do that due diligence for you, not to do that due diligence for a customer, not the duty of the retail store.
So you change depending on the job. If it's a customer, it's a customer.
Your job is to provide one job is to provide information, the other is to provide a
No,
product.
the other job, we were just selling.
You're a salesman. Salesmen provide information.
No, salesman is single.
So the debate is between is about what kind of job it is. It's a good one too. So is there a difference between if you're a salesman versus a non-sales job? Is that what you're saying,
I think
King?
it goes back to like relationships, like the trust you have in that person. Like when you walk into a random store, you don't have a relationship, you don't know who that person is. So it makes it easier to sell it to somebody rather than like your stockbroker or somebody that you trust is like trying to get you buy stocks.
All right, so Zebra says, if you don't have a relationship with just the random salesperson at Best Buy like you would your stockbroker or something like that. Mr. Pope.
I think in this case, well, if you just told everyone where to get the stuff cheaper, you go out of business pretty fast. Like, hey, welcome to so-and-so, you know, you can just get it on cheaper on Amazon, right? But it's also, I think that so long as you're being honest about the product that you're selling, you're not hiking up prices, the TV was that price before you saw the product, so it's not like you're setting it at that price to try to get a few extra dollars out of the customer. And the customer can also shop around if they want to, because it's right down the road. And with something like a TV, you usually kind of expect them to shop around, since it's a pretty expensive investment.
So I think the consensus is we don't think that the salesperson has a duty necessarily to tell the person they could get it somewhere else, but then we've got some gray area about whether or not there might be other reasons why you might want to do that. Ms. Hawkins.
I think it's different because like the stockbroker is actively trying to sell, then there's like bad thing, investment, and also like the salesman for TV, it's not a bad product, like the TV is actually a good product, it's just you can get it cheaper, and they're just not telling them that, whereas like the stockbroker is actually selling a really bad investment.
All right, so let me twist it for a second then. What if, your best friend's grandmother comes in, little old lady on a fixed income, her TV broke, she can't watch her stories, and so she needs a new TV, and she asks you, well, no, she doesn't ask you anything. You know her and you have a personal relationship with her and you care about her, does that change your duty?
Yes.
Yeah.
It does?
Yes, I'm gonna say
It
that.
does?
Yes.
Okay, so
Go ahead, Lexi.
first example, betrayal of trust. Second, dumb, stupid customer in retail. Third example, another betrayal of trust. That's
But what is your,
It's hitting the soft spot in your heart.
Hitting the soft-
It's hitting your heart, it's like, damn, it's a poor old lady, she doesn't know any better, I'm good with her. I'm gonna see her next week, I'm probably gonna be watching this TV, let me help you save some money. Even though I'm working for this business, because you're not necessarily.
Kay's got a soft spot, I like that.
So it's kind of like those dog commercials and cat commercials of, hey, adopt this cat, adopt this dog. It's hitting your heart, so
Yeah.
you have to buy them.
Hitting your heart, that makes it different, Thomas.
Could I try to find a different product that would be cheaper, that was considered like maybe not as fancy as a TV, or maybe a smaller TV, something that wouldn't be, oh shoot, this is gonna be a ripoff, you know?
So here's what's interesting to me. My first scenario was, you don't tell the customer they could get it cheaper somewhere else, and everybody is pretty much, the consensus was, you don't have a duty, an ethical duty to tell them they can get it cheaper somewhere else. But as soon as I made it somebody that you knew and cared for and had a personal relationship with, then the consensus is we're gonna tell her to go get it cheaper somewhere else. So if that's the case, have you violated your duty to your employer? If you tell friend's grandma, hey, go down the street and get it $100 cheaper.
No.
What about that, Fernandez? What's your duty to your employer there?
I think that for the most part, we're just trying to make a sale. They don't really care about personal income or whatever. So, just like you said, just because they know them, they wouldn't just change automatically.
So, does it depend on, like, if it's Best Buy and you're just working there for a summer job and you really don't care how Best Buy does, versus a mom and pop electronic store that's barely hanging on and you're the only, there's one employee, two employees, the owner and you, and then now you're gonna betray your owner who's giving you a job to tell the old lady to go down the street and trade.
I think it kind of depends on too, whether you're making commission
Commission.
or just,
Commission, does it matter if you're making commission? So now we've got a personal stake in it, right?
Commission can do a lot of things.
Okay, so that's fascinating though. Why does it change if there's some money in it for you? Shouldn't your ethical duty be the same no matter whether it benefits you financially or not?
It should be better.
Yeah, it should.
It should be, but it doesn't. So that's one of the most important things anybody will say today, Ryan. It should be, but it doesn't always, right? So we can in theory talk about right and wrong all day long in an abstract sense. But man, does it change when we've got some skin in the game. No doubt about it. It's a lot easier to do the ethical thing if there are no consequences, benefits, or detriments to you, right? Our conscience is clear because there's no effect on us. But once there's some skin in the game, then we've got to, this is human nature. Then we really have to examine what our ethical duties are. Because it's a lot easier to start justifying stuff once we have a benefit. Nikki, do you have a comment on that?
I was going to say, if you're sending grandma to the next door place because it's cheaper, then she's going through the same thing that you would have put her through, just in a different place, if that makes sense. So you're sending her to this place that's cheaper to get this cheaper TV and she's not dealing with you. So, but you can sell her that TV, even if it's more money, and she would be dealing with you, and she knows you. So then she would go back to your company because she's like, oh, I know blah, blah, blah that works here. I was just thinking about that. I
Hey,
don't know if it's accurate.
I'll go see Nikki next time because she'll tell me where all the best deals are, right? Like, she's my
All
go-to.
this person, so I'll be like, hey, it's cheaper over there, but if you stay here, you can keep coming I will be the one that helps you, so.
Right. Would you be, we're not gonna get into this. I was gonna ask y'all, you know, if some super hottie walks in that you're attracted to, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna hook this person up. You know, versus some rude customer like that you'd much rather stick it to, that, you know, knowing that you could, somebody's rude and you wanna sell them the TV because you don't wanna give them a good deal. Yes, sir.
That's why when it comes to business, I'm just gonna be one way. That way, I don't have to worry about my ethics changing depending on if I got skin in the game or not. I'm just gonna treat any person, if it's business, I'm gonna treat you like someone I do not know, and I'm just trying to make it safe.
All right, gold star for King, because what he says is, the whole point of why I'm getting you to do this personal code of ethics assignment. Know what you believe and what your rules are, and stick to them. Don't have to change with the wind or the circumstances or whatever it is. Now that's a great point. It's easy to say in principle, but we see this morning, right? We change one little fact, and then we've got, you know, different things.
I did.
They do. You do. All right. So our job is this morning we gotta catch King in a, and we're gonna try to catch him because he's middle of the road, and my prosecutor behind him is gonna do it, aren't you? Yes, ma'am.
You said you had sons or daughters. Yeah. So what if they did something wrong? And I don't know, the police can do it.
I tell all my kids, my family, police come looking for you, I'm telling you. I'm not
I said to catch him in a race.
So, are you gonna lie for your kids when the police come knocking? This is not one of my scenarios. This is a good one. They're in the kitchen. Miss Gal, let me tell you something. Miss Galvez is tough. Y'all watch what you're saying today, because I'm gonna bring her down here to go do this with me. All right, any thoughts on that before we move on? All right, that was a good one. So, all right, let's see. You're selling a car that has been involved in a wreck. I'm gonna ask you this one, Ms. Jordan. You're a car salesperson. You're selling a car that's been involved in a wreck. Your dealership has fixed it so that no one can tell. As far as you know, the car functions just fine. There appear to be no harmful effects from the wreck. A customer buying the car asks, has this car ever been involved in a wreck? You say, as far as I know, it hasn't. I do know that it runs just fine. So the questions I throw out are, is it a lie and is it wrong?
I know it's been in a wreck.
You know it's been in a wreck.
It is a lie.
So that's just a flat out lie.
Yes.
Does anybody, real quick, anybody think that's not a lie? Does anybody think that saying as far as I know covers you?
Yeah.
Make any difference? Yes. All right, tell me about that.
I wasn't in that wreck.
So as far as you don't know for sure that it happened?
Sure, I know they say they fix some things, so I don't know. As far as I know.
We ain't going
But I would say, if I was you, I would just look up a car first, and then I just put it back in the.
I can't wait to read your personal code of ethics. It's gonna be fascinating.
I just put it back on you.
I like that. All right, so we did it. Yes, sir, Blake.
You just look up the car's VIN number if you really got stuff.
You can't, all right, pretend that doesn't exist. You're right. But let me go back to, is your point that the customer shouldn't take the salesman's word for it? Because that's findable?
No, I'm just saying, if there's concern, like, if there's maybe something off about it, or she just wants to know for sure. If you say like, oh, I don't know, as far as I know, I don't. She might want some clarity, or you might want some clarity, and look at the VIN number.
If a salesman says to you, as far as I know, does that set off any alarms for you?
Yes.
Ms.
Yes.
Jackson? Is that, it does?
Like, the thing about cars is that, like, for me personally, I don't know a lot about cars. And, like, my sister just got a car, and she got burned real bad. Like, it didn't work, she didn't get test driven. She went up there with her boyfriend, they're both, like, 18, 19. And they sold her a broken car, and she signed the paperwork. She put, like $10,000 down, she had like a 9% APR, like, she went in there with a bank with a lower interest rate, didn't know how to do that. And it was just like a bad situation, so like the car is like, don't lie about cars.
Yeah.
It's expensive, like, so they caught on fire, so she left.
Ms. Galvez.
But I think that's like, it's the same as the TV, you know? Like, that's the customer's fault. If I go in a place expecting like for someone to help me, I cannot expect it. Like, it's their job to sell me the car. If it's a faulty car, it's my fault not looking into it. As it's my fault if I'm going in for a TV and I know like there is out there somewhere somewhat cheaper, it's my fault for not looking into it.
So your point is that you believe that it's, as a consumer, it's your job to be skeptical and to do your own due diligence and to not just take at face value anything that you're told by a salesperson.
Yeah, of course, I'm not one that's putting the money.
Right.
It's my fault.
Well, and that is a smart, mature, good way to approach it. However, one of the things you're going to hear me say throughout this course, and this is something that I make my children repeat to me religiously. Most people are idiots. People are idiots. So they're not like Ms. Galvez, who don't go in with that mindset, which I agree with and applaud and commend you for that. That's right. But the majority of the world is made up of, come on, idiots. That's right. Nobody in this class, none of my students would qualify as that. But
No, I am.
Amanda says she is. That's not true. That is not true. But back from a salesperson's perspective, I mean, that's what we're really looking at is what the salesperson's duty is. Does it depend on what industry we're talking about? I mean, do we expect car sales people to be less believable or trustworthy than a stockbroker? No? Ms. Jordan says no? It doesn't depend. So salespeople just in general, you trust, don't trust, or somewhere in the middle? Don't trust? This is a good question. Who
Trust
said?
them to an extent.
Trust to an extent, Amanda says. Right.
I think like sales, like when you're learning about it, you like learn how to sell a product, not so much like, oh, I know everything about this car, and let me like put it out there.
So, go ahead, Lex.
Whenever I was in insurance sales, telemarketing, my entire like MO, like I was taught, was it was my job to accurately explain what they're getting best possible. And granted, that's because it's the insurance industry, nobody understands insurance. But irregardless, like, yeah, at first I think it does depend on the industry, but I think we like set a precedent in our head for like how much we expect, how much we're planning to trust this person based off the industry that they're in, I guess, which is interesting.
That is true. We have preconceived notions about the trustworthiness of what somebody's telling us. And listen, you guys, some of you have, I'm sure, have done this in your jobs before, but you know, sales is, it's an art. I mean, they teach it. They're skilled salespeople, have practice. They have. Then this is not a negative. A good salesperson is a good skill, but they have techniques. They practice how to sell stuff, how to close. I mean, all those things that are involved. And so, you know, there's definitely a skill to it. I just think in this particular example, to me, there's a difference between being a good salesperson and saying something that you know is not true. And King made a point that was, well, what do we really know about anything? Somebody said it was wrecked, it came in, we repaired it, but I wasn't there. I mean, I don't know that. And so you take that view, then what do we really know about anything, right?
You don't.
You
That's why
don't.
just keep everything one way and you do it that way.
All right, Thomas, I skipped you, sorry.
I think in this instance though, that lying to the customer would also, like if you say, as far as I know, to the customer in regards to like a wreck, like a serious accident, the customer is probably just gonna be like, wait, you're supposed to know these things. Like this is the car on your lot that you're trying to sell me. And when it comes to cars, people really care about that stuff because the car is expensive, and if something isn't right with it or something could go wrong with it, that's extremely dangerous. So, and I think the customer just appreciate up front of you just said, yes, it was, but we got it fixed. It runs perfectly fine. When I've driven this perfectly fine, you can take it for a test drive. You can take a look at it yourself. Trying to reassure the customer you've done everything you can to ensure it's pretty as good as it's going to get.
All right, so Mr. Polk makes a great point. There could be a difference between telling a white lie or misleading someone about a product that has serious health consequences versus, let's say you're a clerk at the grocery store and somebody asked you if the milk is expired, although there's a date on it, but something like that, let's just say it involves less than $5. Do we not feel as bad about misleading someone about a carton of eggs as we would about a car? Or something that might impact their safety?
If someone buys expired food that can legitimately, get them sick, and I'm pretty sure they're not shopping at a grocery store ever again. Plus, then maybe you can tell them if you want to make sure that the expiration date's a year, just in case we make a mistake, you can double check behind us, so that way they got everything they need to know before they buy the.
So there could be health issues with that too. But back to King's point for a second, which is that you have your rules and you stick by them. And that should be the same rule if we're talking about a pack of gum at the dollar store as it is a $50,000, $20,000 car. So I would challenge you to think of your personal ethics in that way. But it does get easy to justify if the consequences aren't severe or heavy. Ms. Galvez.
But it doesn't really like at the end of the day, we need what helps us sleep at night.
Well, that's right.
Everything is right or wrong. Even if you justify it, justifications are just like the go.
So her point is a good one. A lie is a lie is a lie. Something's wrong, it's wrong, whether it's a little bit wrong or a lot wrong. Good one. Anybody have a follow-up on that?
I do.
Yes, sir.
When it comes to a job, it's, once I sign on that line, this is my job. If I'm doing my job, as long as it's legal, it's not wrong. People say right or wrong, like, people are butchers that kill animals, and then we sit there and we eat it, and then we don't see none of that is wrong. But is that wrong? So that's their job, to kill animals and put it out there for us to eat. But other people say we're wrong for even eating the animal. So I just feel like when you're doing the job, it's your job. As long as it's legal, then you're not wrong.
But it's different, right and wrong legally and right and wrong ethically.
That's what I'm saying. As long as it's legal, I feel like there is no wrong in my ethics.
I think the law is a terrible thing to judge your ethics off of.
I feel like you gotta make ethics
The law-
morals.
Look, you want me to? I can start. There's a lot of laws that have been really messed up
I agree.
throughout the past.
I agree.
So, because it's legal, does that mean it's ethical? Like if you're just saying, hey,
My,
I'm doing my job.
ethically for
can't
me,
do something
yes.
horrible.
I think you're
If
right.
I sign up for that job, I'm ready to do that job fully, regardless of what I may have to
So
put
if someone does
on.
something horrible, but they got employed to do it, would that make what they're doing okay?
We do it all the time. I just said that.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying.
I did 6 years in the
legal doesn't
military.
mean ethical.
We killed kids, we killed random dogs.
You just
and
said
took
it
the whole
was a job
thing.
and you almost do it.
Yeah, I'm saying, and
But
a
did
lot
that
of
make
people
you-
technically could not do that, but it was my job to do that.
But does that make it ethical?
For me, yes.
Well, I mean.
I can say my
I'm
job
just
is to
saying,
do.
you're admitting that there's some messed up stuff you can get employed to do,
Mhm.
and you're just saying it automatically makes it okay. What if you weren't employed to do it and you did it anyway?
Then that's different. I'm not
How's that
employed
different?
to
You're
do
still
it.
doing it.
I'm not doing it under my employment though.
So I have
You would
You're
do
still
really
benefiting
well
from
in
it.
doing great trials, that's all I'm saying.
so this, you guys are illustrating the point so well. Ethics is personal, and you know, once we get past what's legal, then everybody has decisions to make about what, you know, what they believe they can, as Ms. Galvez says, look in the mirror and sleep with or not. What time is it?
10:30.
All right, we have 15 minutes. So I have a question for my international students for a second. So Ms. Timbrock and Mr. Gruneman, Ms. Hawkins, and who did I leave out? Ms. Galvez, that's right. All right, so does any of the discussion today, do you have a different perspective from your home culture than anything you've heard today? I have no idea. I'm just curious if, you know, we're talking about things that, I mean, I have no idea if car dealerships in Germany are like car dealerships in America, or we look at them the same way. Does that make sense? In America, we have a derogatory, we call somebody a used car salesman if we think they're full of bull and trying to sell us something that we don't want. What, Mr. Jones?
I was gonna say, like, a car salesman, if a girl come by herself, she doesn't ask any questions, he just wants to make a deal, he gonna make the deal. He doesn't care about what the car can, he's gonna make, she's clueless. If she brings a man with her that probably knows more about the car, then he would elaborate more.
All right, so Fernandez's point is, do we make assumptions based on gender or appearances or other characteristics? Then that's a very good one. So my international folks, if you don't have anything to add, that's fine. I'm just curious if anything you've heard today strikes you as different. No differences? All right, okay. Do y'all have the expression of a used car salesman? You do? So that's universal. Okay, all right. All right, let's go to the next one. Oh, here's a good one. A friend gives you tickets to a music concert, but you have to work that night. You call your employer early in the day and tell him, I'm not feeling good, I will not be into work tonight. Is that a lie and is that wrong?
Yes.
What do you think, Ryan?
Yes, it is a lie. Do I think it's wrong? If it's my part-time little job that I'm getting paid an hour at, yeah, I'm going to that concert. Those concert tickets are probably more than whatever silly 4 or 5 hour shift.
So it depends in this scenario on what type of job it is, what you're getting compensated. Okay, Ms. Hawkins.
I think it like depends on your employer as well. Like, if it was like when I had like a job at like Tesco, if I told them that I wanted to miss work for a concert, they would be like, absolutely not. So in that case, I would lie. But also, if it was like a job, one of my smaller jobs, where my boss was pretty lenient and would always let me like, he last minute let me take 4 days off for a festival, and he was always very flexible, and I would just tell the truth and be honest, and I would show them the same respect that they showed me.
Okay, that's a very fair, probably a very real answer.
If I asked,
Go ahead, Lexi.
if I asked for it off and then denied it, I'd still be going.
You'll be going anyway. All right, so I'm curious to hear from Ms. Galvez on this one. What do you think about that?
That it is wrong.
Is it a lie and is it wrong?
It is a lie and it's wrong, but like, I would still do it.
You would still. All right, I have now found the line for Ms. Galvez. Little white lies are okay, right? And I mean, and this is why ethics is so interesting. Like, I mean, I'm okay with that. You know what? I'm okay with that. But it is, we all just said it's a lie. And then it was, well, I mean, I guess we have different opinion, is it wrong or not? But, so there really are no absolutes. I mean, I just can't, yes, Thomas.
Okay, you got multiple tickets, right?
Do we have multiple tickets? Sure.
Take your boss with you.
Take your boss with you.
He can't fire you if he's there too.
What if you can't stand your boss?
You still are covered.
I mean, you know, not to put anybody on the spot, but I mean, how many of you ever emailed a professor and been like, I'm so sick, I'm not making class today, and you are at the beach or something like that?
At the beach, she would do it.
Mr. Khan is selling you out. Hey, so I'm gonna give you a chance to respond to that, Zebra. So what do you want to say about Mr. Khan?
About him?
Yeah.
Oh, he influences me to do it, and then he does it too.
Oh.
I will say I missed the first day of school because I was camping.
Because you were what?
Camping.
Yeah.
Oh, you didn't miss my class. Okay. I don't have a problem with that either. That's why I give you a certain number and you just do what you want with them, so that I don't have to worry about whether you're lying to me or not. I don't care. Everybody needs a few days off. All right, let me see what else I got. Oh, here's a good one. Okay. Who have I not called on yet? Let's see. I haven't called on you, Brooklyn. Your boss tells you that it has not been a very good year economically, so there won't be a raise this year. But she doesn't want the other employees to know yet, so she tells you, if anyone asks if we're getting a raise this year, just say you don't know. Later, one of your coworkers asked if you've heard that if there will be a raise this year. What are you going to tell them?
There's not going to be.
So you're going to go ahead and say there's not going to be?
Yes.
Why is that?
Because I don't want to falsely lead the people that I'm working with, because that makes me look bad,
Okay.
even though, I mean, my boss told me not to tell them, but in the end, it's just gonna be a huge letdown.
So Brooklyn's going with honesty, and she feels like she's got a duty to be honest with her coworkers. Blake?
I feel like I would just say, I don't know, and then let my boss break that news. 'Cause I don't want to be the one that bears the bad news to them. I don't want them to, but that's the boss's business to handle. And that you shouldn't have been put in that situation in the first place.
Ryan?
I also don't think like it's like my job to tell the coworkers like, hey, you're not getting a raise. Like it's definitely the boss's.
So Mr. Khan's point is that's not his decision. It's really not a question he can answer.
I'd just spread a rumor.
So what are some other answers that you could give to that question that would make you feel like you're ethically doing the right thing, without saying whether you know or not? Can anybody think of one, Ms. Galvez?
It's trust, like, I cannot break the trust that my boss put on me by saying, like, don't tell me. But you're still not.
So you could say, I can't answer your question. I
I
know,
can't.
but I.
No, I wouldn't say that.
So what would you say?
If they ask me, I would say, I don't think we have a raise, or I don't know what was meant to say.
All right. So how do you feel about when your boss says, Luciana, I asked you to tell him that you don't know, and you told him that you did know. So then how do you deal with your boss on that?
That's why I would say I didn't know.
Oh, you're gonna say I don't know.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. King?
I would say, I don't know. I don't think so, though. You should ask the boss.
Well, okay, back to your point about the red car. Do you really know?
I don't know.
I mean,
she don't know. She don't give out the raises. Maybe something gonna change.
maybe something's gonna
That's
change.
why you should ask the boss.
That's right. I mean, goes back to what you know or what you don't know. You don't think they are, well, you are, but I mean,
don't think so, but you should ask them all.
yeah. All right, who had the hand up? Ryan.
I would say like, she told like me personally that I'm not getting a raise, but I don't know if that's the case for everybody.
So then we get into splitting hairs and you gotta be careful about what you say, right? All right, any other, Amanda?
You can't confirm or deny.
Can't confirm or deny. That's the old no comment, right? No comment. All right, great job today. I appreciate your participation. So let me tell you a little bit about next week. Remember, your personal code of ethics is due this Monday. Your corporate social responsibility report is due the following Monday. Next week, we're gonna go back to the court system. And so I'll have a lot to say about that on Tuesday. We'll do the same format. Tuesday will be lecture, and then Thursday will be discussion. Anybody have any questions? All right, if you came in late, come see me because I might not have you down as being present. And then my friend in the corner, I don't have you down. Will you come see me when we're done? All right, everybody have a great weekend.
You have to turn your phone off.
Yeah, thank you. Where did the dog go?